Good evening. Today is Saturday and it's 5 p.m. We are hosting a very interesting person, another representative of the millennials. Hello, Sarah. Sarah Lawson is our guest today, and I will show us a little closer. And David Lawson, who is Sarah's father, is here. I am really thankful, David, that you suggested to invite Sarah. I viewed the video that Sarah had, I believe, a year ago, and I think it is fascinating to hear from a young person like you, Sarah. What is your life about? What are your dreams? Where you study? How is school? And Sarah, I will introduce to you our co-hosts, Candy Sheehan and Scott Kiddle. So we are here today in our podcast, and we are called Coping Life Talk. And we had many guests with very different themes, very interesting, different people, and of course, of different ages. And so we had young people, we had older people, but we had people of different professions as well. Your dad was one of our guests as well. So every Saturday we discuss how people cope with different life challenges and different issues, or simply share about our life or their life. So, Sarah, now I invite you to share with us on our Coping Life podcast number 48, believe it or not. So, we will be talking today about how school is, what is your passion in life, how do you deal with different things that come up suddenly or not that suddenly. So, welcome to our Coping Life podcast number 48. And now, please talk when I will be asking you questions, and then Dad will take over, and Candy and Scott will ask questions. Once in a while, I will be bringing you solo, which look like this. So everybody will be looking at you very closely. So, Sarah, welcome. Let's begin. So, how is school? Where are you in school?
It's great. So I am a sophomore at Wichita State. And first of all, thank you for having me on this. This is a really, really awesome experience. And I'm glad that I get to talk with you all. I am currently in my spring semester as a sophomore, and which is crazy that I'm already like almost halfway through college. I feel like I just started it. And I am a member of the women's golf team. And my current major, I'm a psychology major. I'm kind of following in the vein of my dad. I have that, and I am hoping to, in the future, get my doctorate and become a sports psychologist. Hopefully get to work with student athletes just like myself. And yeah.
That's awesome. It's a very good beginning, so I'm excited. I already hear a few things that are very interesting. First of all, that you followed your father's footsteps, choosing psychology as your major. That later probably we will ask you about your relationship with your dad and how did you decide to follow him, not, for example, your mother. So it seems like your dad is quite a hero, like it is for us, many girls, when we follow our father's footsteps. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Okay. But I also am fascinating because I know that besides that you are a student and you just said something that you will pursue your doctorate in the future, which is absolutely amazing and ambitious. And that points at another side of your personality, that strength and confidence and also ambition. So what are your other passions? You have school, and I know you have golf, which is for me is very unusual
Uh-huh.
because I've learned golf, not playing, but simply my friends when I started going to Louisiana from Russia, where we did not have any even mentioning of golf at that time. Of course, my friends started taking us, my family and myself, to golf clubs. And that was absolutely something surreal to me. All these golf carts, and of course, all these lunches in a golf club. But also, they tried to teach me to play golf. And
Mm.
when I when I almost killed my 7 years old son by not knowing how to do that because I hit him on the chest with
Mm.
that little ball. So I hope you will tell us how you started. From where did this passion come from? Is it also from your dad? So please share.
So my now passion for golf really kind of started. I did it a little bit when I was a kid. My grandfather's a massive golfer on my mom's side. He's a massive golfer, and so he'd buy us clubs every year. But I was like 7, and I thought golf was super boring, and I played soccer, and so uh, I didn't really pick it up. And then I got right before my freshman year of high school. My dad was like, he did kind of influence me. He said, "Hey, do you want to play golf?" And I was basically like, "Why not?" I was just about done with the other. I had played basketball and soccer, and I was just about done with both of them. And so I just kind of took it and ran with it. And I made the varsity team as like one of the last people, like bottom spots. And I just kind of just worked at it, and it's obviously completely changed my life. I never even could have imagined what it's done for me. And it's definitely a very big passion of mine. And it's funny that you mentioned like that it's kind of unusual, because I think people definitely see it as like the old man weekend kind of sport that you don't notice people really getting into when they're like my age. So I totally understand that. I feel like that's like a regular question I get, like, "Oh, you play golf? Really? That's kind of interesting." Like,
It's very interesting. Go ahead, Candy.
Well, I have a question because I have a grandson who's an eighth grader and he really loves golf. And it's his idea that he's going to be on the high school team and then he's going to be recruited at a college and get to play, which I know is kind of far out there, but I'm glad he has a plan. Do you have a scholarship? Did it help you pay for your schooling then? I'm curious about that.
yeah. So golf is not, it's not like a full ride scholarship,
Right.
but it definitely helps take out a big chunk of how much college costs.
Okay.
And I would totally recommend that to him, even if he just like walks onto the team. It's a really awesome experience, regardless of if you're paid for like playing or not. There's so much I get just outside of playing the sport, like the connections I make, the opportunities I'm given, the people that kind of academically support you as well. It's a whole like completely different experience than anything I've ever known. So even if he just decides to walk on, that'd be awesome for him, I'm sure.
I really do appreciate that because that is encouraging, and I will encourage him more. I think it's important. He isn't involved in team sports really, but as a golfer, it's kind of you can do it individually. You can compete against yourself until you get better. And
Yeah.
so I will really encourage him to go after that because it sounds like it would be good for him, even if it wasn't a scholarship thing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So Sarah,
So
you mentioned
Sarah,
that you
yeah, go ahead. Go
you,
ahead.
you mentioned making these great connections. Who would you say is the coolest person that you have met among or the most interesting perhaps among those people you've connected with?
Ooh.
Or are you going to be that cool person?
Well, I would say, gosh, I think my swing coach, her name is Sally. I think she's a rock star.
Wonderful.
One, being a female in a very male dominant sport. Not only that, but as a professional, I'm sure that's incredibly tough. And I think she was able to kind of push me and challenge me. And she was the one who originally put in my head that I could play Division I golf. And I'm sitting here like, I just started this like 2 years ago. Like, you're joking with me, right? And so
Cool.
I think
Good.
she's definitely definitely
Okay,
not.
Sarah, so now main question still, how did it all start? You touched a little, but how did it start?
I like at what point? Like very beginning or
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
Um
were 7 years old, it was boring, and I can relate to that. How many times I told you I was on that golf course and I just could not understand what people were doing. And I even noticed some people just collect those balls and come home with a whole sack of those balls. I thought, is that the meaning of golf? But no. So I watched this Tiger Wolf and I thought, whoa, that is very athletic. And so well, how did it happen to you that suddenly it became interesting?
Um, my dad likes to joke with me about it because when I first started playing, I didn't like playing in tournaments. I would get super nervous. I didn't enjoy them. And he likes to say that all of a sudden it was like I'd be at the range more. I'd be playing with friends more. And I think what changed for me is that I am very much I need to see it to believe it sometimes. Um, And specifically with golf, I needed to see that I could play at a higher level than I am in high school. And I needed to see what my coach Sally was just kind of throwing out there for me like, hey, you can do this if you want. And I needed to see that I actually could before I could believe that I could. And so I think what changed was the more I worked at it, the more I noticed my scores dropping, the better I got. And I was kind of like, okay, this is actually really fun. And it is really fun. I love golf because of how challenging it is and how individual, like I can't think of any other sport where there is like no exact same thing you do the entire time you're playing, you know?
Mm.
Everything is different every single time. And so I think I loved how like hard it is, honestly. Like just being just like having to stay engaged all the time, like having to get creative, everything that it has to do with that was, I think, what kind of hooked me on it.
Are there any team elements to golf at all?
Oh, definitely. I So my senior year in high school, we won the state championship, and we like my high school had never had a women's team win any sort of championship like that, so it was pretty awesome. And I think that had we played that as like 5 individuals playing golf, we wouldn't have won. But I think that 5 teammates playing golf together, like you're out by yourself, but you're not really by yourself. And I think that when you see your teammate on a different hole and they make birdie and they're excited, that kind of pumps you up. That gets you going. Like you have motivating people behind you, so it's not just you playing your game. It's your teammates pushing you to do better. So
Very cool. Yeah, Candy. Candy, you're muted.
Yes. We have other things to talk about, I know, other than golf, but I have one more golf question for you, just because I've always heard that golf is such a head game and it's such a game of concentration. And I wondered if you had learned any little tricks about keeping your mind in the game or what you do to keep it there, because I've seen people just go wacko and go completely nuts about over golf. And I just wonder if there's any little secret that you know that kind of keeps you focused. And I'll mute again and I'll listen to you. Thank you.
Oh boy, that is like the $1,000,000 question, I think, for golf. And that certainly is like the last thing that I've had to deal with on my like journey to get better, because I feel like you physically work at getting better at your game and then you reach like the best you can be and you're like, why am I still not doing any better? And it's because like mentally that's just as important. And so honestly, my one of my tricks that I've noticed was sometimes I sing, like I hum things, or I kind of just like if I'm walking by myself, kind of away from people, I kind of just like sing little things, or if I have a song stuck in my head, like that I walk to the beat of, like just kind of keeping myself engaged mentally. But if like I had a bad hole and I don't want to think about it while I'm on the next hole, I think about other random stuff. I think about, oh wow, it's really pretty out today. Like, or I talk with people. Like, I think the number one thing that people struggle with is being able to let go of the things that they messed up on previous holes. And so I think the biggest thing for me that I've been able to do is like, 1, deep breaths. It's not the end of the world. 2, one shot at a time. What happened in the past, I can't change. What's happening in the future, I have no idea, but I need to just accept it. And having fun. Sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, I'm not about to be out here for a 4-hour round and not enjoy myself at least. So.
Well, I think you answered my next question, and that was what would be the top 3 tips that you'd give to another golfer, and there's the answer. David, I think you had some questions.
Yes, we'll start with kind of talk a little bit about the progression. Obviously, I already know the answer to this, but share kind of that progression. You know, Lydia was asking, like, how did this get started? And kind of talk, maybe not the detail, but maybe the state tournament. You know, you started out at Dubs Dread as a freshman, and you ended up with a trophy at Salina, was it?
I think
Is that
so.
where that was? As Salina as a senior, and kind of maybe share a few of those memories from Dubs Dread and the ones in between, so we can kind of get an idea what high school was like for you.
Oh boy.
In golf.
Well, I think another thing I can add to that list is to be patient, because if there's anything high school golf teaches you, it's that it can get worse. Like, some people can just have really bad games. And oh my goodness, I'm trying to think. My freshman year I came in, I probably shot well over 100, like close to last
Well over.
It was well over. And that was just kind of like the baseline, I guess. Like, well, I have nowhere to go but up. And my sophomore year, I worked at it. That was when I first met Sally, I think, and I started working with her a little bit more. And I shot 99, and I tied for 16th. So I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. And then right around my junior year was when she had said to me, hey, you know, you can probably play like small Division I golf, right? And I was like, come on, get out of here. Like, let's be real. Don't sugarcoat me. And that year, I can't remember my score, but I placed, I think, 7th or 8th. And I was like, okay, I think I actually can do this. And my senior year, I ended up tying for first, and I lost the playoff. But
Wow.
That was actually really incredible to do, because I was just kind of like, oh dang, I didn't even think I played that well.
Hey, Sarah, would you, just to give us an idea, not all of our listeners know anything about golf.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say I shot 100, to the uninitiated, that sounds like, wow, 100, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So what would be a par on you're talking like a 9-hole or an 18-hole?
It's 18 holes, and
Okay.
Usually these courses are 72. So
okay,
that's well over
it gives us
what
perspective.
I should be.
Yeah.
It's well over what I should be shooting on that course. And yeah, Dad, does that kind of answer what you were thinking, or?
Yeah, I think, you know, from our perspective, we were all, her mom and I, we were always the parents that kind of undervalued our kids' talents instead of overvalue. We didn't want to be that parent that was always like, I've got the greatest ever, you know. So we were also, you know, kind of like, oh, this will be something she can do. And so, the first, I was like, oh my gosh, she made varsity. Oh my gosh, they won a few games. Oh my gosh, they're going to state. And then she goes to state and I'm like the proudest guy there of a number 6 golfer on the team, which best is 1, 6th is the last varsity player. And she got an 11 on the first hole, and the par, which was a par 4 or 5. And I was like, we're still at state. We're still at state, you know. So that was it kind of went from that 100 something to the 99. I think the junior year was in 82 and real competitive. And then senior year was low 70s. So, and tied for
73.
Wow. 73. So, and also I wanted to throw in a Sally story real quick. That was, you know, for us, it was that, okay, she's kind of like got her swing down. Do we invest in a real golf coach? And I look up and this woman tells me, you know, what the rates are. And I was like, wow, maybe I'm not charging enough as a therapist. And we put her with her, and it was like immediate. It was like Sally was the girls' golf whisperer who just kind of was like confidence and you can do and it was really, I mean, it got to a couple points where I'd be like, Sally, yeah, she won't clean her room. And I'm tired of telling her, can you say something to her? You know, that's how close Sally got to us. And I was also, when she brought us in and she said, she said, I want to talk to you guys about what she can do in college. And I was like, well, this would be cool. We go in, she goes, I'm definitely thinking small Division I, D1 school, which that's the top level, but a smaller school. And I'm like, come on. I was like, she's saying, you know, come on, don't be giving us that. Have you watched? You know, so, and I think what Sally was seeing was the mechanics were good. And it was just other things that needed to work out. So that was kind of what I was getting. And then it just progressed through. And every year we were just like, okay, I guess this is going to get even better. So
my question to both of you, David, you and Sarah, because I'm a grandma that would consider golf lessons for my grandson. How much do you, when would you start that? And how much of an investment? Was she with you for a year, or was it like a 6-month thing, or how did you do that? And how did you find her, I guess?
I found her through my high school coach, Drew Walters, and he was just like, hey, you should go see this chick. I've heard she's really good. And I mean, but that's how he is. Like, you know him. That's how he is.
Yes.
And yeah, I got in touch with her, and I remember her being like, you've got a lot of potential. And this is like the second time I saw her. And I'm like, okay, come on. Like, again, I'm like, I don't know what you're seeing, but it works. And I've worked with her since. It was a lot more like when I was younger, just because that's a lot of mechanic stuff in my swing, like physically kind of building what I look like and how I play. And then as I've gotten older and better, I see her for like minor fixes, but sometimes I would just ask her if she wants to go play. And she was also in a position where she was able to help me. Well, I got to help her with, like, she would do kid clinics. So I got to pick up golf balls and wrangle children, which is like wrangling cats sometimes, and teaching children how to play golf, which probably is the most boring thing they could ever be doing. But that was a super cool experience too. But to answer your question, she kind of became a golf coach, life coach. So I'm still in contact with her now. So
yeah, I would start lessons as soon as possible. Maybe go with kind of an evaluation first and see what they think, and go with that. So,
Sarah, there's a lot of really talented women golfers out there. Who would you say is your role model?
I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Corda sisters, Nellie and Jessica. One of them just recently won a big tournament, but honestly, I had the opportunity through the Kansas City Golf Association. They're now called Central Links, but they run all the junior tournaments and summer tournaments that I get to play in. And I had an opportunity to go with 2 of the people that work there and 3 other girls who I'm good friends with up to Chicago to watch a professional women's tournament. And that was super, super cool because I got to walk around. I got to go into the broadcast room, their press conference stuff, kind of get to see a little behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a big, I met a ton of them, but it was super, super cool. And I feel like a lot of people don't really watch as much women's golf, unfortunately. And I wish people did.
I think golf is probably not the favorite sport for people to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's true in general.
It's probably, I don't know if I dare say it, maybe a little more intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not pounding and tackling and, you know, brute force exhibitions, you know. Quite a bit more finesse, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair statement?
I think you can watch, like I can watch any sport and not have to have a lot of background knowledge. But golf, I think you kind of have to have knowledge of the game and the players and things like that. It's not like, I still don't know some of the rules to hockey, but I'll sit and watch hockey with my wife all the time. And they'll call and I'll be like, I didn't even see that. I don't think golf's like that because there's no movement really. And if you don't know, you know, any of the players, it is much. But some people are surprised when I say, hey, which that's coming up next weekend, the Masters golf tournament in Georgia is the equivalent of the Super Bowl at our house. So
sure.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have hockey in Arkansas, do they?
I don't think so.
Isn't that where you're from? Do I remember
No.
that right? Okay.
No, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
We're the St. Louis Blues.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm ignorant in that area, brother.
Yeah.
I
What would
wonder.
be the hard?
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I have a question. We kind of got through the high school. So, you know, we know that like at coach, we've already heard about Sally getting you through high school. And now you're going to a Division I program, and that dynamic can be pretty special, or not very special, or ugly. So tell us about your experience with the coach you have at Wichita State.
I have never met a person that basically says, okay, this is everything you know, and I want you to turn that upside down because we're going to relearn it, basically. And he's another person in my life where he shows up to the summer tournaments while he's recruiting, and he's like, I really like what you've got. And I'm like, I played awful today, but thank you. Tom McCurdy I believe, was that last mental part of coaching that I needed. Because Sally helped me get the physical part. I show up and he was like, okay, now here's how you handle playing Division I golf, like mentally and emotionally and physically, but mostly how you handle the courses, how you handle the conditions, the pressure of it sometimes. And I'm really, really thankful that he's my coach because I think he's done a lot for my golf game just in the 2 years I've been playing for him.
Okay. All right. So I know you got a few things prepared. Tell us a little bit about how life relates to golf and golf relates to life.
That is I don't think people realize how much golf, it's a life sport that you can play your entire life. And I think that's because of how much it relates to your life as well. I think I've learned a lot of things I've learned from golf have been patience, kind of the skills that you need throughout your life, I think, can come from playing a sport like golf. Patience, not only with your circumstances, but within yourself too. Like, I mean, I know I kind of fast tracked playing the sport and then going to college and playing it, but that doesn't mean that I had like the ups and downs of any sort of sport that you play. And I had to be patient with myself. Like when I first came to college, and you kind of relearn everything and learn how to handle your independent life from your family, your school, your social life, and your sport on top of it. That's basically become your job. And I had to have patience with myself to kind of relax, be like, it's okay. This is how it works. You get better from here. I think I think golf has also taught me so much stuff. It's taught me how to like control my emotions a lot better. Because I mean, there's nothing worse than like throwing a tantrum on the course. And I think it's also helped me understand that there are things that are beyond your control. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner it kind of goes to the wayside and you can just focus on yourself. I believe golf has also taught me to not get wrapped up in the little things. I can't get upset because I missed a putt. Like I'm not going to let that throw off my entire day. And I think specifically with the pandemic, I think the small stuff and managing my emotions, like I'm so thankful that I developed that skill with golf to be able to handle that stuff, because truly having to leave school, come back home, not get to play golf, like that was all completely out of my control. And I just kind of had to sit and breathe and just know that, like, despite all of this going on, that I can still manage myself and how I go about handling it. What was one more thing? I think one of the most important, and I feel like sometimes obvious things that golf taught me, is to also be honest. Golf is a sport where you go out and play by yourself and you're expected to honestly tell people how you did, despite no one watching you.
A lot
And
of soccer
I think
and basketball, and that was really where I kind of
I think oh, it was a video. I think it freaks me out for a second. I was like, God, I heard myself. I think the integrity and honesty that you have to develop to play a sport like golf carries over into your professional life too. I don't think people can really get very far in life if they cheat. So kind of.
Yeah, I was doing some magics here on the background because I remember how David was so proud of you. And he sent me a link to the video interview that was shown on YouTube. And it's very easy to find you. You just put in a browser Sarah Lawson, golf, and then here you are. So if it is okay, listening to what you said about patience, you also brought another quality that really got my attention in that interview. I hope it's okay. It's just 2-minute interview. And are you fine if I'm playing it now?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do that. Because it's very interesting. And I really liked your mannerism and how you talk and how you present yourself in front of the camera. For a young student, I think it's incredible to have a skill like that. So let's see that.
started my athletic background. I got more into golf when I reached high school, and I just wasn't really feeling playing soccer or basketball anymore, and I just really picked up the sport and just kind of took it and ran with it, and it's done a lot for me. I would say the sport has empowered me because of all of the skills that I've learned from the sport, not just physically my ability to play it, but my ability to make friends, to create relationships with the people I play with, literally strangers that I begin playing with, and by the end of the round I'm really good friends with them. I think it's empowered me with the ability to like work well with others, and even in a sport where you're kind of playing by yourself, you're not really playing by yourself because you still have your teammates. I think it's given me the ability to kind of have a voice, to work in clinics with younger girls, to influence younger people around me who might be getting into a sport that kind of gets a bad rap for being more of like a weekend type, your dad plays it, kind of like an older sport, but it's so fun when you really get into it. I believe that the sport itself has kind of taught me a lot of life lessons. It's kind of showed me how to be patient in all things and kind of take things as they come, you know. I think as a female it's important to be in athletics because of all of the benefits you can receive from it, from anything from like your physical health to your emotional health to learning the soft skills such as like teamwork and cooperation and kind of figuring out yourself. I believe that being an athlete is part of my identity, and that helps me know who I am as a person. And I think that sports offer that for girls. They get to kind of figure out who they want to be, what they want to do. A message for girls, I would say, who are maybe thinking of playing sports or unsure about it, I would say just go do it. You never know what's going to happen. I picked up clubs in 8th grade going into freshman year, and I was just like, we'll see what happens. And I worked that summer with my dad, and I made the team, and I was like 6th or 5th person on varsity, and I just kept going with it. And it's completely changed my life. And I think that girls who are willing to do it should do it. They should do it because you have the ability to, so why wouldn't you at least just try something out and see how it goes?
Wonderful.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'm going to put a plug in for Mom. She was a soccer player from young age through high school. Very good, very talented, very athletic, and
Soccer.
she was, but it was a time when there weren't that many women's programs for soccer. So the opportunity was pretty limited, if no opportunity. And so she's always kind of been that force of, you can do this, and strong women. She's a strong woman. And I think that was a big influence too in the idea of, because it is, I mean, honestly, it's a male country club sport, you know,
Yeah.
and that segments out a very small percentage of the population. And, you know, there's a lot of talk about who gets to go to country clubs. You know, for a long time, women didn't get to go to country clubs.
Right.
And I think, you know, her mom was instrumental in kind of giving her that, you know, being a strong woman is reaching your potential, regardless of what the barriers are around you. And, you know, we've seen that example in my wife for years, in that she just keeps outdoing whatever it was. She's like, okay, I got this. So
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of put that into and let people know that, because that's also been very, very important. So, and I think maybe
And
the
I
teamwork
really,
between us. So
right, and I
as
really
parents.
appreciate what you just said, David, because when we hear, since we have you in the studio, we hear about you and how Sarah followed your footsteps. But of course, it's not without mom's influence and without
Mhm.
everything that Sarah is about. And the reason, and I apologize for some struggling. I think it was a connection, a problem, that the video did not kick in right away, and was some latency. But while listening to your interview, Sarah, I think this is exactly what Dad just brought up, the word team. Because I remember what really was striking into me was when you said, golf for me is not about competition, but about building relationships. And you know how many people suffer from not having this skill to really develop good relationships. And it comes to many, many layers of relationships. And one of them, of course, is being a team, having this ability to be a team player, right? though when I heard that interview, then I thought, well, golf is kind of individualistic to me. I never thought that it's like a team of players standing on a golf course and playing at the same time. But could you explain us more how it is that you said it's not about competition? I thought it's all about competition, but you opened for me another depth of golf. So could you please talk about that?
Yeah. Um, I think one of the main reasons why I look at it as more of a relationship is because um, I grew up playing on team sports, so it was always like a team mentality. And then come and try um, come and try golf, and it's very individual and by yourself, and you're out there. It's just you and the course and your opponents. And I was kind of like, well, I don't really like that. That's not super fun. And the relationships I was talking about in that instance was more the amount of friends that I've made, because truly these girls that I show up to play in tournaments against, I don't know them at all before I show up. And by the end of it, I'm like really good friends with them. Some of them I'm still really good friends with. We play golf on the weekends. Like, just because we're in a tournament against each other doesn't mean that I hate you. Like, we're able, even if we're against each other, we can mess with each other. We can be serious, but at the end of it, I've always put connections and friendships first over competition, because competition, it starts and ends while I'm playing on that course. And I believe that outside of that is when I am friends with these people. So.
Thank you. And it tells a lot about who you are and what are your values. But since we just a minute ago talked about your mom and your dad and your family, because family is also like a team. And everybody plays a role, and everybody knows the duties. And could you say a little about how as a teenager, for example, were you maybe different from other teenagers? Because, girls could be so moody and, drama queens, and parents have difficult time. But, with the girls like this, looking at you, I don't see anything of that. So maybe I should remove that for a second. I'm kidding. But did you avoid all these stages when you were something that is so typical for girls, American girls in here, teenagers? So how did your mom and dad handle you? And did golf help you to avoid any of those kind of explosions of mood or behavioral things that are so difficult for parents to handle?
I mean, I'd like to say that I was a golden child, and I did nothing wrong, but I'm sure he can say something differently about that. But
Wonderful.
I think kind of during that time when I would go out on my own volition and go and play my sport, the most difficult thing that I learned while playing golf and kind of committing myself more to it is that it's very time consuming. I've never played a sport where I spend more time on very, very, very finite stuff, like over and over just putting for an hour, like very, very time consuming getting better. And that just kind of caused me to be pulled away more from friend stuff, social stuff. And I feel like I kind of had to accept that was just what comes with the job. But the friends that I was able to make through golf, they understood the same thing. And I think that's why I'm still super close with them, is that they know what it takes, and they're there with me every weekend playing, every day over the summer playing. And I think that's what solidified us as friends. Like, I knew I may be losing time I could spend with other people, but the people that I know are going to be there for me when I'm having difficulty with my game or things aren't going well, I knew those people were who I was playing with while I was gone. So.
Interesting. The question I have, Candy, you have a question? Go ahead.
Well, I was curious, Sarah, what you lost. did you lose one season? I don't know if your season is golf in college, a spring season or a fall one, or how does that work? And did you just practice through the pandemic so it didn't really interfere? You're outside, which would be a plus, but I didn't know what the season would look like and how COVID impacted your team sport. So I'll listen.
So the fun thing about golf is it's both fall and spring. And right when it hit about a year ago, we all had to go home. So the remainder of our spring season was over. And then we had summer and we come back and we're like really hopeful. And you'd think that golf would be able to be socially distant, but I guess not. They said no golf. And we were like, oh, okay, that's interesting, but cool. So yeah, we did just have to practice the whole semester and then come back this semester, and thankfully we're able to play. But yeah, that was super fun.
Question I have. It is. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Well, Sarah, the elephant in the room question. So your dad is a professional counselor. You know what he does. Mm-hmm. And you probably have an idea of what his skill set is. How weird is it to have your dad be a shrink? And I'm speaking, loosely there. Knowing that did you feel like he was psychologizing you as you were growing up, or even now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a bit of an understatement. Not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way, yeah.
No. Do you feel like that skill set was a blessing to you to help you maybe work through some of the obstacles and challenges that you encountered?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there is a real benefit in having a parent that's in mental health, because I think you hit those certain stages of being a teenager and everything is suddenly really difficult and you're annoyed all the time and you don't know why, but you just get angry with people. And he's like, rather than getting angry with me by getting angry at him for no reason, he didn't do anything wrong, but he knows exactly how my sister and I were feeling sometimes. And I'm really, really thankful that I had a parent who knew mental health, understood the intricacies of how the mind works. And I think he offered me that ability to be better equipped to play a sport like golf, where it's so mental sometimes, where it's sometimes just me talking to myself about my game. And I just have to remind myself, like, it's okay, take a deep breath, don't get anxious, you're fine.
That's good.
Would you say that the game is won and lost in the mind?
Oh, absolutely.
To some degree, yeah.
I can't remember which golfer said it, but he had said that the game of golf is a game of like 6 inches and it's between your left and right ear. And so that is definitely what I think about golf and how important it is mentally to be sharp.
Sarah, since we are on the topic of coping also as well, what skills did you learn from dad and your mom? And of course, your dad is a psychologist, and but your mom, I know, is a very extraordinary person, I've heard. So, and I'm sure that we learn from both parents. And when it comes to coping, we've learned since we started, and this is our number 48 podcast, that it is a skill. So it's not like you're born as a person who can cope with anything. We develop it. So what coping skills did you learn from your parents? And maybe not necessarily this is what I've learned from dad and this is what I've learned from mom, but that would be interesting if you can even separate and say, this is what I've learned as a female, as a girl, from my mother when it comes to life challenges, and this is what I've learned from dad, or maybe together in summary.
Yeah. Well, I know she's watching upstairs, so I'll start with her first. But I think that because of the woman she is and what she does now, I think one of the biggest things I've learned from her is when to be tenacious, when to be, no, I am going to do this. No, I am going to work hard at this. And I think like being in a male dominant sport, you need that kind of assertiveness sometimes to go, hey, no, I am going to be a part of this. I'm going to work in a pro shop with all guys and deal with mostly male members, and I'm going to do it. And I think her drive and her her drive and her ambition have definitely kind of rubbed off on me. And I've always wanted to be like that when I was a kid. And I think my dad has taught me how to know when to relax, know when to go do something about something that's bothering me, know how to control my emotions, to almost hold my tongue, I guess. And I think he's taught me how to, I'm trying to think of how to word it. Yeah, kind of along that route, like emotionally, how to kind of process stuff when he might not be around to help me do it.
Yeah. So question to both of you, since we have this professional psychologist and a student who is majoring in psychology, since you touched emotions and we are on the topic of coping, would you tell our audience, are emotions good or bad? Should you always suppress them? Or it is important to put them out and acknowledge them? So what is important for coping? To hide emotions or to deal with them?
Dad, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll start.
I guess you can go.
Dealing depends on what deal means. If deal means I'm going to sort out my real emotions from the imaginary emotions that my brain's creating because I'm misperceiving a situation, then that's good, because I think it's good to feel your real emotions, because if you don't, you'll feel them at some point in time, maybe in a way you don't want to feel them. They'll come out in anger or emotional breakdowns, where if you kind of just go, is this real or is this just something my brain's cooking up? Then feel it, get it done. You know, people are, time after time after time, people will come in, they start telling their story and they start crying. I'm sorry that I'm crying. And I'm like, don't be, because it's a natural flow of your body. And basically, if I did write scripts, everybody needs to have at least one good ugly cry every month, you know. And
good to know that.
That's right. So
that's good.
I think that, and another thing I wanted to kind of go back, and then I'll pass it back to you, Sarah. Sometimes you don't find out that something that you kind of worked with and that we worked together on paid off until later on when you hear somebody say something about it. And I think from the beginning, doing what I do for a living, you get a good perspective on, you know, what's really important in life. And when you really think that through, sometimes getting a 10 on a hole that's a par 4 ranks about 10,497. And if we can keep that perspective, we'll be okay. Yes, you want to win. Yes, you want to do your best, but let's keep perspective on this, because that's what you see get out of whack the most is people be, you know, I believe that being the level of golfer or the level of athlete that Sarah is, you have to be able to manage the competition, your head, and you have to have the skills. And you'll see plenty of girls that have 2 of those. They're train wrecks when they come off the course and they just shot a 73 or something, or they just melt down in the middle of the, you know, they can't put all 3 of those together. They might get 2 at a time. And Sarah seems to be able to do that. And I was talking to the coach one time, her coach now, Tom McCurdy. And I said, and he was just talking, and I'm like, really, when did you make your decision on Sarah? And he goes, the first time I watched her play, she didn't play very well. And she came off and she finished her round and she came off, and you guys just kind of got together and just kind of chatted back and forth. And you were just talking to her, and there wasn't this big emotion. It was, you guys were just managing it. And then I talked to her and I could tell that she was okay. Because he's the type of coach, you get scratched off the list if he sees a parent misbehaving on the course. He's like, nope, I don't care how good you are. I don't want somebody that's got that parent. Is that right, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely on that. And I was kind of like, okay, because there were times I was like, oh, this is like not the day to be. What were those things that those cactus or something you were hitting? Like, today's not a day to be hitting over there. But he was just like, oh no, this is fine. So
Yeah.
back to you, Sarah.
To go off of that too, I remember one back when his daughter was younger and he would bring her with. And she was kind of like sometimes the person that would see stuff he maybe missed. Like sometimes she'd be like, oh no, you don't want their own. Like she would also be scratching off people on the list too for him. Cause she'd be like, no, I saw something else. You don't want him. And she's like maybe 9 or 10 at this time. Like she was a cute little recruiter too. And yeah, I'm trying to remember what we were talking
Emotions.
about. Emotions?
Coping with emotions.
Okay. That was very long-winded, Dad. I was like, what were we talking about again?
I know
Yes, it's true.
Sarah and I
But Sarah-
sometimes have the same problem in keeping things organized. Sometimes both of us, 4 hours feels like 45 minutes or the other way around sometimes.
Mhm.
So.
Absolutely.
That's true. So, Sarah, question. Go ahead.
Oh, you can go.
No. If you have something to add about emotions, but my question is related to that. So, if you didn't finish what you wanted to say, then I will ask you a question.
Okay. Kind of to piggyback off the professional. I also firmly agree with that. Like, I am a personal believer in bottling doesn't get you anywhere, and it probably ends up hurting more people than just you in the end. And usually it's not the person that you maybe bottled feelings about that ends up getting it uncorked on them. So I think kind of being honest with yourself about how you're feeling helps you be honest with others about how you're feeling. And we all cope differently, but as long as the end goal is that you feel better at the end, then I think that anything works.
Wonderful. You just said a wonderful and important thing, that we all cope differently. So when you look back at all the stories of victories or failures at golf players, do you see a difference between men and women? How they deal with the failure emotionally?
Yeah, I do see a difference. I think.
Okay.
I think women, we tend to kind of internalize it more. It's more about maybe emotionally I wasn't on top of my game today versus I think men, if they have a bad round, they immediately go hit for an hour or they go putt for an hour. Like that's how they take out their frustration is something was wrong with my game. And that's like mentally I was there, but game-wise I wasn't. I think men it becomes a bit more physical and women it becomes a bit more emotional. And I don't want to stereotype women being emotional, but that's what I see, I feel like.
So you don't see that women grab a golf club and start destroying everything around themselves? No. And men, do they do that? So how do you cope if I lost? What should I do? Not using the golf club for that purpose, destroying things around me? Or how do I process this failure? If I lost, I lost.
I feel like whatever makes you feel better afterwards, just go do it. If that means going and smashing stuff, then go and smash stuff.
Yeah, because unfortunately, the reason I said that coping, you're right. Everybody copes different. But in our world, with all the politics and all that was going on during this year, we saw many things. And many times, I'm sure people even who do not play golf, they probably had an access to a golf club and then they would go and smash something. So, but what I think, I really want to have you back and your dad, because I think don't you think, Andy and Scott, to teach our audience more about the patient approach and the ability to handle a failure, a defeat? Because in since you mentioned relationships and communication and patience is one of the skills that help us to develop relationship, I think it's just awesome what you say today. In the world that is so full of cruelty and impatience and reaction, people overreact. And yes, maybe they regret it later, but what you represent today is a kind of sense of togetherness. And I see behind you that gather. I will show that
Yeah.
gathers. I just like, yes, you gather yourself together. And that's what I think you showed us today, don't you think? That you are just a whole person and in such a young age that you can be very proud of your daughter and mom too. And I hope one day we can see mother who is such a woman who taught you such wonderful and important skills for life. So I really am thankful for what we heard today. And anything else we want to ask Sarah at the end?
So how are you gonna, like, when you become, what's your one thing that you're gonna tell those kids when you're a sports psychologist
Um,
that they can use both, because they're not all, it's going to be those little girls you taught out at Lake Quivira. So they're not all going to become golfers. So what's that one thing you're going to tell them that'll help them in golf and in life?
Yeah, right.
I have no idea. I haven't thought that far.
Well,
but
you
I
talked
would,
about relationships. You talked about honesty.
I would
You know,
probably, yeah, I'd probably tell them to be honest and don't get wrapped up in the little things that make you mad.
That you touched a very good question, very good subject, David. So, Sarah, let's imagine in the future you are a psychologist, you're a doctor, and you become a sports psychologist for the world competition, and you are psychologizing the national team of golfers on the world level. So, how differently would you counsel men golfers if they come to you in rage? Because they lost? And also, how would you approach women who lost?
Um, I I think I wouldn't. I think I would make it very individualized. I don't think I'd base it on gender, because I think everyone reacts to everything differently. It doesn't matter that I'm a girl, if I was a guy, if I was a dog, I'd react to stuff differently. So um, I think it would be how that person handles things and maybe what, not necessarily weak points, but what I believe they could refine to help them be like a better person, a better player in whatever sport they're in golf. That's probably what I would go more for.
That sounds like the best answer. I think you already show professionalism. Your dad can be very proud again because this is already the maturity for a student who majors in psychology that she can apply later in life. But so now we concluding our podcast. We are very happy to have you, Sarah, with us, and as well as your dad, David. Thank you, Candy and Scott. And I want to introduce our podcast number 49, which we will be hosting a very extraordinary man, like all our guests are absolutely extraordinary, Major King. And I invite you to think this week before we have him in our studio, who is he? He is a writer, he is a pastor, he is a lawyer, and a wonderful public speaker. So, how can a person combine all three, such different sides of who he is, and then function in the world that is so full of challenges and different temptations, being a pastor and a lawyer? And then now, when we are watching this, The Guardian series, that is kind of coming to many questions to me. So we have a comment here from Margie Lawson. I think it's your mom. Great job, Sarah. Hi, nice to meet you,
Oh,
Margie.
very
And
good.
I just want to use this opportunity to invite you to be our guest one day. So thank you again. Our next guest
Thank
is
you.
Bernie King. And today we hosted Sarah Lawson, a psychology student who showed us how to cope with competition, how to cope with the student's life. And so, Sarah, you are an amazing representative of the new
Thank you.
generation. Thank you so
Absolutely.
Thank
much.
you
Thank you,
so much.
everybody. Thank you,
Thank
David.
you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Sarah,
Scott.
David.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye now.
bye-bye. Thank you.